Hey, why won't either of you talk to me? I cried out to my husband and daughter. It had been a whole month since they started ignoring me. It hurt so much. I didn't know what caused it. When I finally realized they were ignoring me at home, it felt like I was invisible. Hey, Dad, did you hear something? Nope. Probably just your imagination. My daughter and husband kept dismissing me, even though they could clearly hear me and see me. They acted like I wasn't there at all. I couldn't bear it any longer, so I decided to leave home. 5 years later, I got my revenge in a surprising way. My name is Anna Smith. I'm 50 years old. I used to be a regular stay-at-home mom with my husband, John, and our daughter, Mandy. John and I met at work 23 years ago, both in IT, earning a good living. We were comfortable and didn't have to worry about money. When I turned 30, we welcomed our healthy daughter, Mandy, into the world, and she grew up without any serious health problems. I became a stay-at-home mom when Mandy was born. I had planned to go back to work after a year, but John disagreed. Anna, do you really need to go back to work? He asked. I think I should for Mandy's future. My salary is good, and I can support us, I replied. But wouldn't it be better to save money? We've saved up plenty, he countered. I want you to focus on our daughter and the home, he added. After many discussions, I decided to quit my job. That's when my days filled with parenting and household chores began. To be honest, I didn't realize how tough parenting could be until Mandy was born. The constant feeding every few hours left me sleep-deprived and often without an appetite. But I had to stay nourished for Mandy's sake. Balancing chores was also tough. I tried to get them done while Mandy slept, but often I'd end up sleeping too, due to exhaustion. John helped occasionally, but he usually left things to me. He'd step in when Mandy was calm, but handed her back when she cried. And so the days passed by in a flash. Mandy turned 16. After her sweet 16 party, she confronted me. Mom, I didn't have a photographer at my party, right? She asked. Well, you didn't want to rent a dress, so we bought a new one instead, remember? That's why we didn't hire a photographer, I explained. What? Why not? All my friends had one, Mandy exclaimed. But you can't get a photographer for free, I pointed out. I don't care about that. As a kid, isn't that something parents should handle? She retorted. Just then, John walked in from work and noticed the tension. What's going on? He asked. Mandy turned to him, complaining, Dad, all my friends had a photographer at their sweet 16 parties, and I was the only one who didn't. Mom's saying it's because I didn't want to rent a dress. Is that fair? Understanding her disappointment, John said, I get it. If all your friends had one, you'd want it too. I'll hire a photographer for a photo shoot in your dress. I'll take care of the cost. Really? Thank you, Dad. I love you. Mandy exclaimed happily, then turned to me with disdain and walked out of the living room. I couldn't hold back from confronting John, who seemed too eager to indulge Mandy. Wait a minute, why are you making decisions like that without discussing it with me? I asked him. What's the big deal? It's just photos, he replied casually. Just photos? Do you realize how expensive it is to hire a photographer? It could cost over $1,000, I exclaimed. Well, Mandy wants it, and shouldn't you be the one paying for that? John responded, shocking me with his unexpected suggestion. What? I blurted out in disbelief. He added sarcastically, I'm the one supporting the family, you know. You don't contribute to our expenses. That's true, but since Mandy was born, Most of her needs have been covered from my savings, I explained. Shut up. You just do as I say. Who do you think you are? Not doing the cleaning around here? Then leave. How do you expect to survive now without a job? John taunted me with a smirk. As infuriating as it was, there was some truth in his words. Even as Mandy grew older, John kept finding reasons to discourage me from returning to work, so I remained without an income. My savings, which were nearly $100,000 when we married, had dwindled to less than $20,000. If I left now, it would be tough to make it on my own. That realization silenced me. I clenched my teeth as John triumphantly declared, "You can't manage without me." Got it. Just do what I say, don't argue with me again, and make sure you hire a photographer for Mandy's photo shoot. Okay, yes, I replied quietly as he tossed his suit aside and headed for the bathroom. Hanging up his suit, anger simmered inside me. What was all this about? How much more would Mandy and John undermine me? I never intended to be a stay-at-home mom forever. After careful consideration, I resolved to start working from home, just in case. John's dismissive response was, "Do whatever you want." So I started a job that fit within our tax bracket. The photo shoot for Mandy ended up costing $1,500. She insisted on getting the largest printed picture and having all the photo data, which made it expensive. Looking at the printed picture, Mandy exclaimed, "Oh, I look terrible in this. I look way better than that." "Don't say that. The photographer worked hard to take this shot for you," I replied. "Maybe it was the studio's fault in the first place." "You chose that place, Mom. It was the only one available when you were free. Stop making excuses. I don't think I'll ever look at this picture again, so just put it away somewhere." "What do you mean?" I muttered, feeling my voice tremble with anger and sadness. But as a mother, I knew I shouldn't get emotional right then. I took a deep breath to calm myself, holding back tears as I went to the kitchen. Little did I know, worse was yet to come. The next day, I made breakfast as usual, but John and Mandy never came downstairs, just as I was about to check on them. I heard them chatting as they came down the stairs. "Hey, Dad, where are we going for breakfast?" How about that cafe near the station?" "I heard they have great breakfasts," John replied. "I want to go there." "All right, let's go then," John responded as they both put on their shoes and headed for the front door. Confused and frustrated, I blurted out, "Wait a second. Breakfast is ready." "Mandy, can't you hear me? Let's eat." But they didn't respond. The door closed with a slam, and their cheerful voices faded away. I couldn't understand what was going on. It wasn't just this once. They ignored me every time I called out to them. Why would they both do this to me? Did they really not hear me, or was something else going on? Later that evening, they returned home together, having had dinner out without me and ignoring the meal I had prepared. Each went straight to their rooms. This pattern repeated day after day, and it broke my heart. A month passed with no change in their behavior. Then one day, I found completed divorce papers in the living room. "What does this mean?" I asked John. But as usual, he and Mandy ignored me, happily eating pizza and watching a movie together. That's when it hit me. All the emotions I'd been holding back boiled over in a desperate panic. Tears streaming down my face, I finally spoke up. "Hey, why? Why don't either of you answer me?" I pleaded, but there was no response. They just kept laughing and watching the movie, completely ignoring me. I didn't understand what had triggered this. By the time I realized it, my husband and daughter were ignoring me in our own home. You're supposed to be my family, but here it's like I'm invisible, I cried out. Hey, Dad, did you hear something? Nope. Probably just your imagination. John dismissed me, even though they could clearly hear me and see me. They acted as if I didn't exist. I couldn't bear it any longer. Clutching the divorce papers, I packed only the essentials into my carry-on and left the house without saying a word. I took a train to my parents' home about an hour away. Thankfully, my parents are still alive and enjoying their retirement. They were surprised to see me arrive with luggage, but they welcomed me with open arms. Once I explained everything, they said, I can see you've been through a lot, Anna. We're sorry we didn't notice sooner. You could stay here as long as you need to get back on your feet. Their words brought tears to my eyes. That day was the first time in decades that I had cried so openly. The following day, I filed for divorce and reverted to my maiden name, changing from Smith to Adams. Despite feeling some loneliness, I managed to steady my emotions and started looking for a job. It was daunting, after leaving work at 30 and having a 20-year gap in my employment history. I wondered if there was still a place for me in the workforce at 50. I was grateful to be hired on the spot by the first company I applied to. They valued my previous experience with a well-known company, and soon I was handling important responsibilities. Over the next 5 years, I mastered my job and began training new hires. I formed a special bond with Harris, a colleague around my daughter Mandy's age. It felt like having a son, and I enjoyed chatting with him. His mother, around my age, became a good friend, and we talked about everything from work to personal matters. One day Harris, now in his 3rd year with the company, handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked curiously. He grinned shyly and said, "I'm getting married, and I really want you to come to my wedding." "Congratulations, I'd love to be there." "Thank you," I replied warmly. When I got home and opened the invitation, I am Mandy's mother, Anna Adams. "Did you really abandon Mandy and your husband?" Harris asked, searching for clarity. "That's not the case. At home, I was treated like nothing more than a housekeeper by my husband and daughter. Eventually, they started ignoring me." "Ignored?" Harris looked puzzled. "Yes, it went on for a month, and I couldn't take it anymore. John had already prepared divorce papers, so I took them and left. It wasn't me who left. They pushed me away." "Mandy, why did you ignore your mom?" Harris asked, hoping for an explanation. Mandy's smile faded as she retorted defiantly, because everything about her was annoying. So Dad and I decided to ignore her. She left after just 1 month. "Isn't that funny?" she replied callously. "Mandy, are you serious?" Harris's voice was filled with disappointment. "It's fine. It won't bother you. Just think of me as not having a mother," Mandy said with a smile, trying to brush off the situation. But Harris, visibly angry, couldn't stay silent. "What are you saying? This is serious. I never knew you could be so heartless," he said, his voice full of disappointment. Mandy, surprised by his reaction, responded in confusion, "Huh." She clearly hadn't expected Harris to side with me. Harris, his tone cold and resolute, pulled away from Mandy's touch. "This engagement is over. I'm glad I saw your true colors before we got married," he declared firmly. "What? Wait, you can't be serious." Mandy protested, shocked. "Don't touch me. I don't want to be with someone as cruel as you ever again." "The wedding is canceled," Harris stated firmly, cutting off any further discussion. "No way," Mandy exclaimed. Harris took the microphone and addressed the guests, apologizing sincerely. "I'm very sorry," he said, instructing them to take their gifts back and leave. "Wait, everyone! Please don't leave!" Mandy cried out tearfully, but the guests departed with cold stares. Just as I was about to follow them out, John confronted me. "Anna, do something," he pleaded urgently. "Huh? Why should I? This is your doing, isn't it? You ruined Mandy's wedding, and you don't regret it," I retorted, unable to suppress a laugh. "What's so funny?" John yelled, growing more frustrated. "Just the irony of it all. I don't feel an ounce of sympathy for Mandy. You both brought this upon yourselves. You deserve this," I replied firmly. "What about Mandy's marriage?" he pressed, his voice fraught with concern. "I don't care. I'm just glad Harris, my valuable team member, doesn't have to marry someone like Mandy. He deserves someone much better. So goodbye. I won't see you ever again." With those words, I walked away from the venue without looking back. A sense of relief washed over me, knowing I had made the right decision. Later on, Harris and Mandy's engagement was officially called off. It turned out Mandy had been working as a temporary employee and had planned to quit her job for marriage. Without a stable income and now without a fiancé, Mandy started spending recklessly on designer items to cope with her stress. Meanwhile, John found himself draining his savings to support Mandy's lifestyle. It was clear their unsustainable behavior was heading towards disaster. Finally free from those burdens, I felt liberated. Moving forward, I want to focus on living my life to the fullest, pursuing my own happiness without being